Well, still climbing up the gully. I think that might be the notch I'm trying to get to right there. It looks like it. So, still got a ways to go. But I've come up quite a ways too. I could barely see Camp Rock Road way out there, and the power lines quite a ways away. So I've come up a long way. Yeah, the terrain up to this point is varied. There are areas where it's like this and it's pretty easy, and there are some spots where you're going to be grabbing onto rocks and using your upper body strength to pull you up. Then nothing more than class 2 so far. I haven't come across any class 3 climbing terrain, but it's not easy. But I don't feel all worn out like I did when I hiked Silver Peak, is when I had to climb up a gully to get to that one. That was back in the end of January, and I felt a lot more tired on that one because it was very steep and it was loose pretty much the whole way up. This, I mean, it's got its loose spots, and I do have to do some heaving of my upper body to get up where I'm trying to go, but I find myself having a fairly easy time navigating around, just zigzagging through the paths of least resistance to get through these gullies. It's not super hard, but it's not easy. It's still fairly strenuous hiking. So you're going to come across jumbles of rocks like this, where you might have to side hill above it, or around it, or you might just have to hike over it, up it and over it. Luckily, a lot of the obstacles that I've come across, I'm able to find an area of least resistance to either get up over it or even around it. So far, this has been pretty good. Might even be able to side hill it again for a while. But I'm not exactly sure what elevation I'm at. I must be getting at least close to 5,000 feet. Hopefully I'm above it for now. Hopefully I'm above 5,000 feet. Because if I'm not above 5,000 feet, that means I have at least 11 to 1,200 feet more to gain. But it looks like the terrain here on this side of the gully, for now, is pretty mellow. So I think I'm going to go ahead and walk up this. See, it's all good and dandy to challenge yourself to go over every hardcore rock, but sometimes I find it prudent to hike wisely. If you're trying to do a more than 2,000 foot elevation gain over a very short distance, as this is, you're gonna wanna, unless you're really super commando. I'm not super commando. Yeah, I go up some pretty steep, crazy climbs, but I try to make it as easy as possible by navigating around the tougher terrain. If I have to go over a piece of tough terrain, I'll have to do it if I'm trying to get to the top of the peak. But if I don't have to, I'll try to find a way around it. And now that I'm going up here just to the left of the gully, I find myself on much easier terrain. Gentle sloping, at least for now. And at least for now, the rocks aren't that big. This is actually, right now I'm doing class 1, just walking up a hill. Now I know up ahead the boulders and rocks are getting larger, so that might mean eventually side hilling to the other side, or just continuing on in the adjacent gully. So hikers can either go commando, hardcore, and climb over every single obstacle, or if they're not as in crazy awesome fitness shape, as I'm not in the best fitness shape in the world, I'm a little overweight, I try to make it a little more logistical in terms of not so much distance, but ease of movement. And so far, it's working out. I'm kind of zigzagging between both sides of the gully, sometimes hiking right in the middle of it, and sometimes side hilling it just above it. So, whatever path you take, it's up to you. But I personally, unless I'm really trying to challenge myself a little extra, I did a couple of decent climbs over some rocky material where I could have done an easier side hilling route, but I'm not trying to do too much so I don't tire myself out. Because not only do I have to climb up this beast, I gotta climb down this beast. Climbing down might not be as taxing on your chest, you know, your breathing and your heart, but it's going to be very taxing on your feet and ankles and your back, especially if you're carrying a backpack. So, good thing is, don't overexert yourself while you're climbing. Unless you really have that kind of energy and you're going to challenge yourself every step of the way. But for people of slightly lesser physical prowess, try to be as logistical as you can. Now I know I'm running out of really easy terrain, so I've been going over really easy terrain for the last 10 minutes. Or last few minutes at least. So now I'm coming to the point where I'm going to have to decide which way to go. More than likely I'm going to go right, maybe cross over the gully again, try to make this a little less taxing. But right now it's not extremely steep. I know once we get towards the head wall of the gullies, it's going to start getting much steeper. I know by experience. Silver Peak was one of those. But, well, keep navigating this gully. Navigation here is not that hard. If you pay attention to your maps, plan it before you do it. Don't just come here and just expect to walk up some random canyon and be able to get up there easily. It does take some planning, especially because this is a completely trailless off-country route. You're going to want to make sure you know your landmarks going up. Pay attention to what it looks like by looking at landmarks turning around as you're going to go downhill this way. Look for the familiar landmarks like that peak right there. If you stay left of that peak, you'll come out of the wash closest to the trailhead or the hiking start. So, see, as I'm going along here, I'm able to circumvent this really insane terrain here. As I said, I'm zigzagging between gullies, so just keep a note of that. You might do the same. I mean, this is a pretty decent sized gully, decent sized canyon, so I can't see getting lost unless you really don't pay attention. Can't really see you getting lost. It's just like I said, turning around every so often to look at the terrain behind you because that's the terrain you're going to be looking at on the way down. It's very essential in cross-country travel. Looks like I still got a ways to go. So in my next video, I'll be probably a lot closer to the head wall of the canyon up on the ridge. Maybe not on it yet, because there might be some interesting challenges and sites that I might need to point out in my next video. But until then, the hike continues.